800, we will have difficulties in terms of in terms of being able to throw it. What are you? Let's see. Okay, sciencey time. Custom 3. We want analyze telemetry and record impact data and log temperature and record perturbation, and we'll put that in 4 as well. Log radiation, log pressure. Okay. So we got that far. Now we'll go ahead and put 2 biosamples on and 2 RTGs and the big old dish. That brings us up to 357, but we haven't decreased our electric charge yet. Okay, 315. Now, okay, it looks like Twitch is still having some issues, for which I apologize. I don't know. Hopefully all this will have recorded fine. I'd rather not redo it. Although I could probably add a more accurate title now that I know that we'll be doing this instead of the other thing. We're not entering orbit. We're not doing any of these other things. We don't even need the big antenna because this already has... what is the antenna? 2,000 kilometers. That's fine. Yeah, so this... So in case the prior bit was distorted in the recording, which I hope it is not, you can see from our alarm clock list that we have an upcoming Saturn and Jupiter window. I was planning to build the command service module, but I noticed that these windows are coming up soon. So we're going to divert for a bit and build a probe that can do a flyby. Now, the last bit we are left with is now we're going to need some RCS. Really wish we had nice booms for these RCS, but this will have to do. Okay. Right. And MMH and NTO, TL3, 295 seconds. Okay. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and... What's that? Oh, reaction wheels. Ha ha ha. No. Right, let's go ahead and fill this up, although not anywhere near all the way. I think we only want maybe 10 liters. So we'll do that, then we'll autofill, then we'll remove it. All right, just shy of 340 kilograms. Oh, we need to action group these. We'll put them on 8. And we'll put the RCS on 9 because that's where I've been putting RCS for a while. And we're also going to start with it off because I've once again forgotten to do the whole staging thing. Note to self, fix that in the next realism overhaul. So the Sparrows were the landers. Let's call these Dove. So this is basically just a giant dish, and then some RTGs and some science instruments. Its delta V is nothing to write home about. Let's calculate this. Okay, natural log. It has just shy of 100 meters per second delta V. That is a shockingly small quantity, which means we had better get our injection correct. We will also, however, presumably need a kick motor. One wonders whether a solid will actually be a better deal or not. Because my guess is our traditional catapult CM will have nowhere near the delta V required for this maneuver. My guess at how much delta V is required is 16 kilometers per second. Instead, we get... Oh. Huh. Nice. Well, I guess we don't need a kick motor. That's pretty nice. That's really pretty nice. Not gonna lie, kinda shocked that we're getting that much delta V. Okay, so yeah, looks like we can just throw this to Jupiter direct. We can't throw it to Saturn. Saturn will require another 1,300 meters per second. So I think we will probably have to forgo the Saturn window. Unless we simply build a larger launch vehicle. Always a possibility. I mean, for example, if we just up and built the launch vehicle to stick this whole upper stage and probe in orbit, that would be enough to go to Saturn direct. 8755 right there. The other question is just how long we're going to be on orbit. Because if you remember, for Mars, we coasted, and we coasted too long, and we got too much boil off. So let's have a look at the tracking station. Now this is in a This is in literally a half a year. Right. So we'll be down here in a half year. We'll be launching this way in a half year. And the plane of the moon, so if we're trying to align prograde, we're probably burning about at this angle, which means since all these planes are invariant, we're burning at about this angle. So we will not have a long coast, because we will launch when we are at the highest, the cape is at the highest point it can have, and then we'll coast around to here, and now the downside is that we will be launching, it'll be a day launch, so there will be boil off, but it should not be a terribly long coast period. At most, and half of that coast, if it is a longer coast, the rest of it will be at night. So that's okay. That said, given our experience last time, given the fact that the lower stages are at this point somewhat overpowered, I'm going to go ahead and add even more liquid hydrogen. Currently it's at 9081.9. Alright, so that does not appreciably decrease our delta V, because we can dump the excess LH2 if we need to. Now, hmm, 1.21. All right, so the next question is, what do we gain from having a kick motor? And do we need a higher? I think we probably do need a bit more delta V in here. So let's do that, and then let's add a little itty-bitty kick motor, which we'll do with a 1 kilonewton thruster rather than a solid, because we don't have a solid. And we'll set this at next to 0 impulse, because we don't want to risk it upsetting our existing. Now that was 16,200 total. Service module, fillet cylinder. Let's lower the diameter a bit. Oops. Okay, and nope, wrong one. This one. Gold foil. And a 1 kilonewton thruster, which in our current use is actually more like 1.5. 1.78 actually. Up to, yeah. Okay. 295. Heh, that is a rather long burn time. Now let us assess exactly what the structural fraction of this is. 355 is our starting mass. We're going to need 3 of these for it to even be halfway reasonable. And it's still kind of ridiculously long burning if we wanted to compare it to a solid. All right, let's try. All right, so even that is more long burning than a solid. Even that is considerably longer burning than your average solid. But we'll see how it goes. So, what is actually our structural fraction on this thing? 770 minus 355 is 415. It's 415 wet, and it's 105 dry. That means that we have an almost 25% structural fraction. That is depressing. That is incredibly depressing. That is going to make me want to get a wax wing, because that is not acceptable. The issue that I am facing with this kick motor is that it's not merely a question of delta V. I'm not using this to perform an orbital insertion. I'm using it to perform the transjovian injection, and for that I really need a low burn time, given that the Mariner is already going to have about 5 or 6 minutes worth of burn time before that, and we don't. I mean, 5 or 6 minutes is, you know, like a 15th of the orbital period. We will have moved during that burn. That will not make us very efficient. We'll have effectively steering losses. So it's not the sort of thing that we can just go to phys warp and sit through, because we'll actually get serious delta V losses from having such a long ejection burn. I mean, the other option is just to eject somewhat, and then while we're still fairly near our perihelion, do more of the burn. I mean, I think that's okay, but right, for you know, a 6,700 meter per second ejection burn, I think like a long time is probably okay for it. But this would work much better with a wax wing, because let's look and see if we made our delta V better or worse. My guess is only barely better. Let's find out. Where is it? Here. And okay, yes, we gained about 700 meters per second despite adding 1493 meters per second. So we got about half the gain that kick stage gave us. That is a depressing sum. It nonetheless is probably what we'll go with until we get a wax wing. But it definitely means that it's less awesome than it should be. Now, the build time on this is not very long. So I'll save this for now. It is intriguing. Makes me wonder whether a Saturn flyby is possible with our current launch vehicle if we have a really decent kick motor. Because we're looking at, yeah, let's do the math here. 8037 plus, we'll have lower gravity losses than before. Alright, so the absolute minimum I would feel comfortable with for that Saturn ejection is 17,287. We are actually quite close to that. I think a waxwing might bring us over. So let's go ahead and reorder our research priorities such that we get mature solids as soon as possible. I think I actually may have already rejiggered that. Yes, I did. All right, that's in 49 days. We also well, we know we're doing the Jupiter flyby no matter what. So let's go ahead and pick that up. The question before us is whether we accept, well, we can't accept a Saturn flyby until we actually finish the upgrade to mission control. So that obviates our option. We can, however, go ahead and buy a bunch of upgrades. Remember, we're going to need about 600,000 funds for the pod once we get it unlocked. So $1.327, almost 1 1/3 science points a day. So now we're down to 45 days instead of 49 days. So I think we're basically just going to have to work to that. That's fine. I don't care. All right. So another 47 days until we can get our Saturn contract. But we can now go ahead and go in here and let's unlock the waxwing kick motor. And you can bet it has a better structural fraction than 25%. Okay, so our total mass right now is 0.77 tons with 1493 meters per second delta V. Let's go ahead and get the waxwing, which is, oh, I think it got stuck in fuel for some reason. Don't know why. This is basically, it has a lower delta, it has a lower specific impulse, but you know, that's okay. It says 278 versus 295, but I really think that will be okay. Yes, so 30 kilograms lighter for about the same delta V, except we have a much, much lower burn time, which is great. Let's make this nice and small. And we'll just mount this right on, basically. All right, now let's look at our delta V. 16,917. We are still tragically just short of our we are just short of what we need to go to Saturn. Because even the most optimistic projection the most utterly gobsmackingly optimistic projection requires 17.2 kilometers per second vacuum delta V. The only other option before us is to replace the second stage of this launch vehicle with a hydrolock stage, or to simply use our gobsmackingly massive launch vehicle. Let us now see exactly how much delta V is in the probe. Calc. It is 351 over 327. Take the natural logarithm of that, multiply by G's. Oops. Dagnabbit. Typo. Come on, clear everything. Okay. Clear. 351 over 327. Take the natural log. Multiply by G0. Multiply by the specific impulse. That is 204 meters per second. That is enough delta V to perform a reasonable fine-tuned / deep space maneuver. However, I'm going to inch it up just a little bit more, I think, because I don't think that will materially change. Yeah, that just went up by 10 kilograms. How much delta V now do we get? 1423. Yeah, we lost 30 meters per second in exchange for gaining 100. I think that's a fair trade. Okay, we can get rid of that now. Plop this back on here. Okay. Now, this is sufficient for Jupiter. This is not sufficient for Saturn. Well, all right. You know, I have spent most of this tutorial doing things small. Let us do something big. We need to flight proof this launch vehicle anyway. So let's do that thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next generation of launch vehicles. Let's see. This goes away. This goes on it. How big is this? This is 5 meters. Base. 5 meters. Gonna need a lot more height than that, let me tell you. Okay, and let's move this on up. Okay. All right, now I think in this case I'm not even going to use the kick motor. We'll finish the burn on this just with the Mariner. Don't need it. Come on, there we are. Okay. Now we have more than enough capacity. All right, so this is not as expensive as our Mars probes. Interesting. So we have, ugh, there. Right. So we have a first stage. Bloop, bloop, move it up. That has 7 of those NK-15s. No, they say NK-33, but that's because the model's the same. 7 of them that burn for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Then we have the ullage motors fire, and then 4 of the NK-9Vs light, or in this case, NK-19s. That is enough to get about 30 tons even to orbit. What we are asking of it in this case is not 30 tons to orbit. It is merely about 16 tons to orbit. So we're only going to have to burn like 4 minutes of this stage rather than all 5. And that leaves 8515, so 500 meters per second spare compared to what we need for a Saturn injection. That basically will place the whole Mariner upper stage in orbit as an injection stage. It does mean that we have a 7 minute 15 seconds ejection burn, but somehow I think we'll manage. Right, so this is, you know, sufficiently freakishly large. And we will, per usual practice, build 2, because, I mean, we are talking about 7 NK-15s in the first stage. 1 could totally fail. We're talking about 4 NK-9Vs, or NK-19s on the second stage. 1 could totally fail. And then we get to the RL-10s. So, yeah. You never know. But this is kind of a fat launch vehicle. It's to do with needing enough area for all 7 of those nozzles, and the fact that once they're uprated to NK-33s, then we can stretch that stage and it'll be fine. We're also, of course, getting perilously close to the pad limit of 800 tons. So, yeah. This is the launch vehicle that we'll be using when we go ahead and launch our VA stack translunar, and when, without a third stage, what we'll use to put station sections in orbit. So, welcome to the future. Right, so let's build 2 of these and queue them up for Saturn, and then we'll have Dove 3 and 4 and send them to Jupiter, of which we can go back to using our old launch vehicle. We don't have to, and in fact we didn't have to warp to this anyway, because it looks like we can get away without using it. Although I'm skeptical of the Jupiter injection. We'll see. So let's go ahead and build this. Dove 2. Build this. Alright, and that took our funding down a pretty penny. Let's go ahead and delete all that, and then get a catapult CM. And we need to stretch this up. Oops, I think that's probably sufficient. 90, 81.9. Oops. All right. And then we need to do that. And what is our 6718 plus 9350? All right, 240. All right, I don't think we actually need the kick motor then. I think we can just do a... I think we'll be okay. So... Oops. This needs to come on down, not be hanging around up there. Let's go up one more notch. That's fine. Ah, we don't need the retros here. That will give us a little bit extra to play with. 130 meters per second. Alright, so we'll build 2 of these. Build, and yes, this saves us significant money, so that's always nice. Build. Now, we get to wait for mission control to be ready. However, I think first I want to go, because I have a feeling I messed up the fairings on this. So let's edit it. Survey says, I did. Yeah, the staging was all kinds of messed up. Alright. Yes, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous overkill. I mean, we could be sending a much heavier probe. And in fact, I think that that is not a terrible idea. Let us take advantage of this. There is no reason not to. That gives us a fair amount of delta V. In fact, I have a feeling that may be a bit much. A nice kilometer per second of delta V in this probe, so that no matter how badly we mess up our Saturn transfer, we should be able to fix it. I can't imagine we'd mess it up so badly that a kilometer per second delta V wouldn't fix it. Let's put this back together. And we still have plenty of delta V. However, some of that is wasted on the first 2 stages, because right now the first 2 stages produce a kilometer per second extra delta V. So that gets ignored. That takes us down to 18,589. Then we ignore this, so we get down to 17,589. So we really only have about 200 meters per second spare in this launch vehicle, because that kilometer per second delta V is wasted in the... Oh well. It's okay. Yeah, so we have 82 versus 8037. So that's 250 meters per second spare. I think that's acceptable, especially because we can burn a bit of that the probe's own engine if we have to correct, because it is a 7-minute, 15-second burn. Now, part of that's just because we have far too much liquid hydrogen. See, if we bring it down to the normal amount, that jumps up to 8691. So we actually do have more margin than it at first appears. Most of that is just because we're over-provisioning and assuming boil-off. So I'm happy. This is overkill, but it's nice to do something with high margins rather than low margins every once in a while. This all looks decent. I guess the other thing we can do is the same as before, get rid of the set motors. And it gives us another 100, 150 meters per second. Yeah, let's go with that. Save edits. Now, rather than repeating those edits on the other thing, I'm just going to scrap the other copy of it. Yes, scrap. Now, duplicate. And rename it to Dove2. And now the ordering is correct. They will take 62 days each to build. Our Saturn window is 122 days. That is fine. We will get mission control in 47 days and mature capsules right after those windows, so I guess we won't be building that after all in this episode. I'm sorry. Yeah, so once again I've assumed we would be doing something other than what we in fact do this episode. Wouldn't be the first or the fifth time. Okay, so let's go ahead and, I guess, warp to these being ready. We'll roll them out. They'll be our first truly heavy launches. I trust that the launch vehicle will work correctly. Now normally I would build the launch vehicle on the stream, but given that that's basically just sort of a straight up quadrupling of our existing launch vehicle, or just shy of quadrupling, it's 7 NK-15s instead of 8 on the first stage. I went ahead and just built it myself. So let's warp to, well, first let me save the thing. It is November 16th, 1960. And we're going to go ahead and warp until mission control is complete. Then we're going to go ahead and... Where did Saturn flyby go? That's annoying. There's Saturn flyby. Alright, we have until 1970 to complete it. Which means if these launches fail, we can go at another window or do a gravity assist kind of thing and get there. Okay. We have unlimited contracts, so we can go ahead and right, so this is the sort of thing we might consider doing if we wanted to send something in the Venus window, because it pays fairly well. Why not? So yeah. Now we have a lot of money again. So consider what we have to unlock. mature capsules will really want to unlock new configs for the Hydrolox engines, but we already have the base engine. I don't see a need to go to a Hydrolox second stage yet. We'll need to unlock a docking port from here. It's expensive, but it's not ridiculous. Short-term habitation, we'll need to unlock some stuff, but we'll get the milestone to pay for it. We're going to build a station and have the milestone pay for it. So yeah, mission control, ironically, is the first building that's at tier 3 because, yeah, we haven't needed anything else. But it's just helpful to have a lot of contracts up in the air at once when you're doing all these probe missions. Let's go ahead and warp until that's complete. Roll it out. It's going to take over a day and a half to roll out because it's a very expensive thingy. We're going to roll the other one out to pad 2. And yeah, it looks like we'll be set to launch them in the next episode. We'll also launch, so it looks like we'll launch all 4 in the next episode. And once they are launched, then we can go ahead and deal with the designing the command and service module, because this will not come unlocked until after those launches. The other thing the only other issue, of course, here is that fairly soon we're going to need to do an upgrade for this. It's worth considering an upgrade to the launch pad, just because we're probably at some point going to want, I mean, I don't know. We can probably just barely keep things under 800 tons, especially if we go Hydrolox on the second stage. But 800 tons is a somewhat annoying limit at times. Right, and we're also going to want to upgrade the astronaut complex at some point so we can get lunar-trained astronauts. So R&D's got to go up. So yeah, all those considerations. However, we are going to address in the next episode. For now, thank you all for watching. I apologize for the brokenness of some bits of this episode. Hopefully the YouTube export will be fine. Or has been fine if you're watching it on YouTube. And with that, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed it. You learned something from it. It was helpful. And I hope to see you again soon. So thanks, and bye-bye.